Is Sony forcing you to upgrade your PS5? Does Sony need a second showcase this year? And are we at the gates of the all-digital future? How's it going, everyone? Welcome to PSReady. This is the weekend news, not podcast update, the video that me and Ray do sometimes. Today we have a ton of great topics to talk about just because there's finally some PlayStation news. Did you watch the showcase yesterday, Ray?
I did watch the showcase.
What did you?
Yesterday.
I did get to. Okay, I banked so hard. All right, I've been flying home a lot the past year, right? I go home, I go to Michigan, and hang out. Every flight I've been on, every single one has had Wi-Fi, right? Like good Wi-Fi. I watch TikTok the whole flight instead of playing video games or doing something productive, and it's great. I love it. I'm like, okay, I'll watch the PlayStation showcase. I'll jump off the plane. There's no way they're going to announce hardware. I'll jump off the plane, have all my knowledge ready to go. I'll get home, I'll film a video. It'll be great. Of course, I get on the plane. There's no Wi-Fi. Zero Wi-Fi capability on this plane.
Wait, but tell them what airline you flew first.
I'm saving that for the end. I asked the lady when she brings by the drink cart and I get my $4 Coke. There's a hint about what airline I flew on, and there's like 50 Wi-Fi signs. I'm like, hey, is there Wi-Fi on this plane? She's like, no, there's no, this is not equipped for Wi-Fi. And I just like point at the sign. I'm like, there's like so many Wi-Fi signs. She's like, I'm not turning that on. So did not have Wi-Fi. Got off the plane, a bunch of messages from our friend Matt, like, we gotta film. And I'm like, oh no, like the project Q just got announced, like right when I got off the plane. So I went in the LAX bathroom, and Rich, you can cut this if it's too bad. Halfway through the video, I looked down and there's just a pile of human shit on the ground. So I had to film with that. And yeah, I flew Spirit Airlines. I got the full Spirit experience start to finish. So beyond that, the rest of the showcase was mildly disappointing.
A pile of... We were hearing like this was going to be mind-blowing. And, you know, when it comes to PlayStation discourse, it's all about, oh, these killer first-party titles. Like, it's going to be chock full of like these amazing first-party experiences. And then you watch the show, and it's like they showed off some like PSVR 2 stuff. And then they showed off Spider-Man. That was cool. And then everything else, I was like, you know.
Guys, it's your favorite part of the video where I tell you to buy things in the description, but there's a reason for it this time. I updated the links down there. I've added a couple new Samsung TVs because I bought a house and I'm looking at new TVs, and that's what I'm going to pick up. I put the ones I've been looking at down in the description. You should buy them and then tell me which ones are good so I don't make a mistake upgrading my new house.
Did this really need to be a PlayStation showcase? It could have been another state of play.
They could have cut half the games and made a state of play, which we'll talk about. I think Sony needs to get rid of state of play and bank up these games a little bit more and make bigger showcases. But yeah, the question is, do they need another showcase this year? I would say yes, and it better focus entirely on first-party games because we don't know what a lot of the first-party studios are doing. Naughty Dog was the one where people were complaining, and Neil Druckmann was like, we're going to be at Summer Games Fest or whatever, and then they're going to have more to share later this year on the multiplayer game. You're waiting way too long in that multiplayer game. That you are quickly evaporating whatever hype there is from the show. There's also all this negative news for The Last of Us Part 1. You got to announce that multiplayer game because people aren't going to care.
I got a little bit of scoop on this. Okay. I'll try to be as vague as possible. But I did talk to someone on the Naughty Dog team.
That's not vague at all.
And they were saying... I talked to someone close to these projects.
Cool.
And they were just saying... They just don't have the people. Like, they don't have the people to support, like, the workload on, like, all the projects that people want them to be working on.
Yeah, that makes sense because Sony, they said earlier, or last year, I think it was, the time is all blurring together. They said that they're going to get all these studios working on multiple games at the same time. And we sat here like, yo, that's going to increase the amount of time it takes to make games. I've also heard so many reports that everyone working from home really extends the process of making games. And a lot of studios...
I can imagine that.
Have a big perk when they hire people now because it's super competitive that you can work from anywhere. So it's like a perfect storm of not good.
It seems that, you know, the people above these studios on the board or whatever, they are just kind of resistant on hiring like more people
because of the recession.
Recession and like, you know, what if the game doesn't pan out?
Right.
You know, and then they lost all this money on nothing. And yeah, it's like, it's tough. It is tough because the expectations as gamers and consumers, they're sky high. They've never been higher. We want bigger. We want better. And we are unfortunately having to pay more for it. $70 instead of $60.
Sony's gone in the trap before of announcing games too early for sure. Like Spider-Man and Horizon and Days Gone. Like during the PS4 generation, they were notorious for having like the same 3 games show up at every single showcase at E3. And that's why they ended up leaving E3, because of the year they showed The Last of Us Part 2, people like were not happy with their showcase performance there, and they're like, fine, we just won't do these showcases anymore for a while. And it's like, okay, that's like all right, Sony, it's very mature, but whatever. And now we're in kind of the same boat where we don't know what any of the first parties are working on, but we kind of know what some of them are. Like Ghost of Tsushima 2, I don't think you need to worry about announcing that too early. We all know you're working on it. We know it's probably going to come out around the same time as the movie. Just announce it. Same thing with The Last of Us multiplayer game. You've shown us concept art. You've already announced the game. Show us a trailer for it. The Last of Us Part 3, they announced 2 so early. Do the same thing with this game. There are so many that we know are coming.
I think the disappointment really comes. It's like they showed a lot of multiplayer games at this
Oh my
PlayStation
God,
one,
yeah.
but not the one that everyone was wanting, The Last of Us, right?
Yeah.
And it's tough because they also showed a lot of like interesting, cool indie stuff. And a bunch of people are like, no, boo, this sucks. I think people need to change their perspective on indie titles, because it's like the AAA stuff could be really cool and exciting, but it can also be like redundant, kind of the same stuff we've seen, disappointing. Like there are just as many games out there that are AAA quality that have disappointed us as there are ones that have excited us. Yeah.
This year's been really rough.
So I think people need to change their perspective on indie stuff, because those are really the ones that are taking risks. They're like taking swings creatively, and sometimes they hit and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
But when you have a showcase, that's mostly that when people are expecting, oh, let's see freaking Wolverine, let's see like some other like crazy first party stuff.
They
that's
already
where the
announced
disconnect
Wolverine.
lies.
Like show something from it. Like give us a new trailer, like that Kraven trailer they showed off for Spider-Man 2. That could have been shown a long time ago. Honestly, like just that trailer alone, and then they could have shown the gameplay at this showcase that was 10 minutes long.
There were some cool ones, like Phantom Blade Zero, I thought looked really cool. What was that one? It was like jumping from kind of 2D to 3D to like other art styles. I thought that one looked cool as well. Marathon, like, and that was another thing. A lot of these trailers, they were cinematics, right?
Yeah.
We didn't like, what's going on with like a lot of these games?
Back and forth on, just because the concept art I've seen for Marathon is like a dude holding someone's spine. And then we get this thing, and it's like bright colored, like not gory at all, like very like safe and sanitary, so that they can like market it to everyone. It seems like a free to play type of game. I got to see more from Marathon. I'll put my trust in Bungie, but they made some stupid moves lately that I don't agree with. So
they want to cash in on like the multiplayer stuff, the live service stuff. You know, how can we make this game appealing for everyone to support a large player base that will make us money over time?
The other thing that I noticed during the showcase, though, this is kind of the next topic, is that it looks like we're going to start getting a lot more AAA digital only games. Like we're not even going to have the option to pay a little bit more for a special edition disc version. Specifically what I'm talking about is Alan Wake 2. So this game, I mean, even from Control, Alan Wake 2 looks like a massive visual upgrade. The shot of Saga in that like dilapidated house, it's got the Resident Evil over the shoulder with the flashlight, and the dude bursts through the ceiling. Like that was incredible graphically speaking. The face capture is awesome, and all of that was running on a PlayStation 5. That was not like pre-rendered cinematic. That was like real gameplay. And Control is already one of the best looking games this gen, I would say. But I'm really disappointed that this game doesn't have any physical version. Are you?
That's like your worst nightmare, man.
I know,
like your worst
it's
nightmare.
Not that big of a deal, really. But
come
like,
on, like you've been looking forward to this game for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you were looking forward to grabbing a physical copy, collector's edition.
I'll give you the reasons. I feel like there's a lot of developers who will do this now. So the reasons they gave are price. They want to keep it at $60 on PS5 and $50 on PC. And they say that not printing discs causes them to be able to do that. That's fine. The other reason, which I definitely agree with, but I think there's an obvious solution to, is they don't want to ship half the game on the disc and then have to download a big chunk of the game. My argument there would be don't print the discs until you finish the game. Like if you need that extra time that badly, maybe you should wait a little longer to release the game. My counter to myself there is that they're releasing this on October 17th during Halloween time, which like, that's a good move. Yeah. I'm okay with this consolation here. And then the other reason they gave, I think they kind of hinted at, no one bought Alan Wake Remastered physically. which
yeah,
you know,
yeah, you got to do what the market tells you, do what the numbers tell you, I guess.
But then people are like, oh, are you going to do a special edition? So
too bad, so sad.
But you can definitely see what kind of tier of game could benefit from something like this. I'm looking directly at Dead Island 2, right? Like that game, it probably would have not moved the needle at all if it was all digital. It sold 2 million copies. It's Deep Silver's biggest launch ever. I bet like 1.95 million of those copies were digital.
Did you?
I would say.
Yeah, mine was digital.
Yeah, mine too. I bought it on PC. Oh no, I got a download code from them on Epic Game Store, and it was a great experience on PC digitally. And a lot of people bought it digitally on PS5. We've already seen Mortal Kombat 1. That's the highest pre-ordered game on the PlayStation Store now, and like that's all digital pre-orders right there. So if people are just happy to download their games, then I understand why they're doing it, and I think it is a smart move for these AA level games, I guess.
Until you lose access to them because you forgot the password to your PlayStation account or something. So yeah, PlayStation Showcase. I give it like a 6.5. There's some cool stuff that we saw. I mean, Final Fantasy 16. I'm so hyped for that, but like we've already seen that. And we've seen like some of those clips already that they showed off. And then of course we got to talk about Spider-Man because like there was some cool stuff going on there, but then I was like kind of having some questions myself. I was like, okay, you know, black suit Spider-Man, that was cool.
So I saw some people talking about this, and it really got me thinking, like trying to think objectively about it. This doesn't look like that big of an upgrade over Miles Morales or Spider-Man Remastered.
I would say there was no upgrade at all. I'd say it's like the same visually.
So like just we don't know because Insomniac hasn't said it. So like let's not break them over the coals just yet. But from what we saw in the trailer, you're getting essentially the same Manhattan, right? Like maybe they've expanded it a little bit, made it a little bit more one-to-one. Maybe they made it so that when you go by windows and then go back by the same window, the interior of the room looks the same as when you passed it the first time. Those small upgrades matter, right? But we did get a huge upgrade with freaking Spider-Man Remastered and Miles Morales, where we got the 60 FPS, we got the fast web swinging. So I think the wingsuit and the faster web swinging would have gone a lot longer of a way if Miles Morales was not a PS5 game and didn't already have the 60 FPS gameplay.
I did not like the UI.
Yeah, the UI.
It made it look like a freaking like what was that game? It was like Web of Shadows or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
Web of the Multiverse or like something.
Shattered Dimensions.
Yeah, that one. I was like, this UI feels dated.
The UI is terrible in the first one too.
What the? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's all like the formula that made those games successful in the first place, like crazy, like, you know, mix of gameplay versus quick time events that feel very cinematic and make you really feel like you're Spider-Man. Yeah. But it's like, was it the upgrade that we were expecting? But I think people are starting to catch wise to that, and like they're hungry for fresh experiences from PlayStation versus like.
Do you think the that's my whole point here. Do you think they're kind of like purposely holding the PS5 back a little bit so they can justify the Pro next year a lot more?
I think that would have been. That's
like,
a little too like
think about it,
anime villain, like I'm 3 steps ahead of you.
They're rebuilding. They're obviously not rebuilding the Spider-Man map from the ground up, right? Like they're starting with the template. I would say I don't know anything about game development, so I'm probably wrong. But like it looks like they're starting with the template of the map they already have and just building on Queens and Brooklyn and these new boroughs, right? Like we know that. You'd expect to see more of like a resolution upgrade, which we didn't see in this trailer. You'd expect to see, you know, more of a lighting upgrade, which I'd say this lighting was on par with Miles Morales. And arguably Miles Morales, because of the snow and the winter effect and just the winter lighting in New York, I'd say looked a little better to me. It looks like bigger though, but really because they pulled the camera back out a lot more. It's just like simple tricks to make the same-ish looking game look a lot better. And I'm like, if this is the true next-gen PS5 experience we were promised, what's really pushing the PS5? Is it switching between Miles and Peter? What is it?
Yeah, it's interesting.
There's no co-op. It's single player only.
There's no co-op. I'm thinking now of, you know, God of War 2018 versus God of War Ragnarok.
Very similar games.
I thought it looked great, Ragnarok.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm saying 2018 looks that good.
But that was also kind of expected because it was like, this is going to be the last cross-generational PlayStation exclusive. Spider-Man 2 is not coming to PS4, right?
No.
Yeah.
Because they want to finally move on, which makes sense. I just feel like Sony, like I think what you said is correct, where people are kind of catching wise to Sony's strategy here. The way to get games out quicker is to set them in the same environment for the sequel. Like Ragnarok was able to look a little more expansive because it's pretty much on the same map, just with new areas added onto it. Looks like Spider-Man's doing the same thing, and that's why we're going from 2014 to 2023. It's pretty good, especially with the 2 games in the middle if you count remastered.
Yeah, I think where this game's really going to shine is like the villains. Obviously, it's like we're hearing that I saw that they were bringing Yuri back, and she's going to be Wraith. Obviously, Venom is going to come into play because we've already seen that.
Because it brings in the DLC.
Yeah,
which is like, I think the DLC is pretty mid, but like.
But my problem is, to speak on that point, it's like when I got my PlayStation 5, I got Spider-Man because I was like, I missed out on this, and I was playing it. I was like, this is awesome. But like as I played more and more, it's like the enjoyment was diminishing. I was like, this is still good, but like after I beat the game, I was like, oh, this is like a great ending to the game. And then I got to the DLC. I was like, I want more of this. The DLC, I was like, I'm not getting as much enjoyment out of this as I thought. Like as that initial, not compared to that initial, like, oh my god, the side stuff was terrible. Like the YouTuber who was like, you got to do these challenges and stuff. I'm like, oh my god, like is this kind of the last Spider-Man game that they can kind of ride out on the wings of the last?
It's just like, it's disappointing because this is supposed to be like the game, right? Like this is supposed to be the PS5 game that's like, oh, this is pushing the PS5 to its limit. It's going to show why you needed that hardware upgrade. And I'm like increasingly getting worried that we're going to get closer and closer to this PS5 Pro, and they're going to do the same thing where they're going to be like, you need this new hardware to really get the best graphics available and the best frame rates available. And then we're going to do the same thing, the same song and dance, where we're like, these kind of feel like PS5 games that are just running on better hardware. Sort of like how Ragnarok could run at a bigger resolution and frame rate on the PS5.
What's up with foam stars? Like, Square just straight up jacket Splatoon?
It's crazy that people have been saying like, oh, Sony needs to focus more on multiplayer and having multiplayer stuff. And the 2 big multiplayer looking games, Concord which is Concord's first party now. It's from Haven Studios, I want to say.
Oh, yeah. Remind me of which one that was?
No, Firewalk. Concord's from Firewalk, and Firewalk is a new studio that they bought, I want to say. And then there's the one from Haven that was also shown off. The point is, Foam Stars, Concord, and I think one other game, their dislike ratios on YouTube are insane. I think Concord specifically, when I checked, was at like 2.8 thousand thumbs ups and like 5.9 thousand thumbs downs. Like people were not into these multiplayer games, and it's kind of crazy.
A little strange because I was wanting them to focus on like one really cool multiplayer,
right?
But it seems like they're throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and then just seeing what sticks,
which is exactly what we're scared of.
Like it seems to be like the general strategy of multiplayer games now. It's like all these live service games, they pop up and then most of them end up just shuttering after like a year or two.
It's a repeat of what Ubisoft's been doing over the past few years, which has almost killed them. So that's why I'm a little worried about this. But like I will say the bar of quality was much higher in these games, except for Foam Stars, because that looked terrible. It just looked like a ripoff of Splatoon that wasn't as good. I understand.
It's just like it's more. Remember when you could have it all, man? Remember when it was like a game came with the single player and then you could play multiplayer, but then you can go back to the campaign if you wanted to for like other challenges and stuff. And now it's like, man, different. It's different nowadays, y'all.
Yeah. And I think Marathon, out of all these, is the one that's like most primed to succeed. Obviously, Bungie knows what they're doing. They're good with Destiny. They've got the live service stuff locked down.
And even if it launches terribly, like they could turn around. Like people hated Destiny 1 launch, and they turned it around to like freaking bajillion-dollar franchise.
This game better be good though, because they removed the entire freaking Crucible team from Destiny onto this game like years ago. I think the strategy there is smart to make it Escape from Tarkov, where it's an extraction shooter. That's obviously like the next big thing. It just feels like such a waste of time and money, especially hearing now that Naughty Dog feels like they're stretched pretty thin. That's what these studios like Firewalk and Fire Sprite and like these smaller Deviation games, that's what they used to exist for, to take some of the like load off of the shoulders of these bigger studios who needed help on these big games. And now they're going to say, well, we're busy making Concord, which like is a terrible name for a game, just objectively, I think. And then we got Foam Stars being worked on. It's like, is it a waste of time to work on 50 million multiplayer games that you're going to throw out there with the intention of killing like 49 million of them? I think it is maybe a mistake.